supposedly we have a border crisis. What would I do? It's hard to say. Without going in depth to other potential corruptions of solutions that I have, which, and there's ways to solve so many issues, but the truth is, people once you start solving these issues, it's like rabbits in Australia. Okay, they reproduce and they are unwilling to want to control that. People will reproduce like fucking rabbits. This it's ridiculous. And every time you start to solve issues that make people suffer, they all it does is extend the period to the next period. It's all right. We fixed this problem, and now what are you gonna have? Population spike, and then it becomes worse again. Now there's more solutions to fix that too, to increase us to the next population spike, and again and again and again. So why don't you want to do that? Well, it's like that rush to become a multiplanetary species. There's a lot of flaws with that. If you become a multiplanetary species, you just sort of set this foundation of hypocrisy where people. I reduced it to. I'm just gonna say the answer. I'm not even gonna retread the thoughts. They're old too at this point, but that you have to have an inherent understanding of free will philosophy. That's all it is. I mean, that's basically what it is. I have studied the laws of free will for so long now. I've never found a flaw in them other than either hypocrisy or paradoxes. And so, one, we try to weed out hypocrisy. That's like our greatest weakness, which in itself is a paradox. So then you start to study paradoxes, and you find all these dimensions, paradoxes. And it will drive you fucking insane, okay? I gave up my sanity a long time ago for it, and I did my job well. Let's put it that way. So looking at this border crisis, when you dumb it down, people will bring their problems with them, and I am not the greatest person either. I mean, the way I live, I kind of live like Van Gogh did, in that people support me. So I get to study that, and I try to not create more issues in the long run. Because there are certain things that we can do that will genuinely solve all of our problems. But they lay foundations for hypocrisy. Screw us over, and it's just, yeah, you want to do decent things now. Alright, so these people come to the border. They can't, they legitimately have this, like, desire to escape something that can't sustain their future, right? So if you want to, well, you have to. You have this inherent trait, this need to reproduce, to prolong your future, your bloodline. If you can't do that back home, and you don't have a scientific, society, scientifically minded society, philosophically minded, I often wonder, it's what if I were back then and I didn't have the education? Would I still be as I am now? I think I would be, because I redesigned the wheel. But that was another study too. It was like, if I were back then, this and that, would I be capable of the same sort of foundational bedrock of humility that we have today? And I don't know. I don't have all the answers, man. I'm not that smart, and I'm tired. Okay, I got other stuff I want to do. But also, if you're gonna paint pictures, you gotta have people to look at them. And the thing is if you're remembered by people like this, what is the value of being remembered? So, what do you do? There's so many people flooding. This is an isolated incident. It's no different. We can look at it like a concept or an interplanetary issues and stuff. Hey, I'm not president. I don't want to fucking be president. Sounds obnoxious. But it's one of those things. If you got ideas, you have to share them. And great leaders have ideas. So, if we withdraw our border, here over here, and we remove people from those towns, which are in Texas, and everybody hates living in Texas. That's why they're such assholes. And they come everywhere else and they think they're brilliant. Fucking Texans. That they, these places that they built that last forever are the same inherent issues that are going to root into the new populace that overtakes them. They aren't going to make bricks or... Well, I saw this building. It was a building in the video or the news report or whatever it was. Of this just old brick building, like that thing is going to last fucking ages. That's going to last... It lasts hundreds of years, potentially. And... Alright, so we withdraw our borders. What's going to happen to these people that we let into our border? Ignoring how the fuck they even know where they want to go if the infrastructure itself can't even support the people. How can it spread so much information? How do these people who've never been here know where they want to go and how they want to spread across the United States? Let's just ignore all that funny business, because that's pretty funny to me. We just look at, like, if we just withdrew the border, now all of a sudden they have these buildings, right? What is still going to happen? They're going to bring their problems, they're just going to expand them slightly. They have some shelters, but... And now I'm rooting back into that solution that I don't want to share. I've been hiding this one for years because I'm afraid of what it can lead to. And so I hide that. Trying to pursue the other solutions without simply following the laws of free will in the philosophy. Let's try to corrupt it, basically, is what I'm saying. If we tried to corrupt it, and looking at great philosophers, the people who then try to guide humanity become corruption. It is part of philosophy. You can't escape it. You can do great philosophy. Once you start making these choices, at least when I study paradoxes, if you had my brain, you know that it's just generating more hypocrisy, especially in myself. And my greatest fear is to be the next Marxist, you know what I mean? The next great corrupted philosopher that is just a fucking confoolery. I don't want to be that guy. My goal is to die and leave a bunch of paintings on some wall somewhere. Hopefully people will like looking at them. That's the base of my goal. Writing a good song too, that was my goal as well. I always wanted to write a good song. There was so much music. None of them are good, apparently. Or it's just me. And what do you do? Time is it? Time to go buy more beer. You only live once, and you only get to be 32 once and regret all your choices. It's kind of exhilarating in a way. You know, I could be successful. I could. If I had gone to school, I'd be working on warp drives right now. I mean, my brain is weird, apparently. Who knows what I'd be doing? I chose philosophy, and I chose art, and I chose music. Well, trying to achieve art. I don't call myself an artist. Paint well. Other people will call you an artist if you are one. Is that? I mean, you don't really have a choice. You don't. It's like, I am the greatest artist. Look at my pants. I stepped in mud earlier. You know what I mean? Something like that. What do you do? I don't like the word obey. More like follow. If you follow the law, if you grasp and understand the laws of free will, that's the way it is. That's the secret. It's if you naturally can acclimate to free will. In the future, true artists, utopian societies, everybody becomes an artist, and art always comes from philosophy, because philosophy is everything and nothing, and it defines what it means to be human. You get this rush in you. You get this desire and emphasis, and you get impulsive, and you think that there is no time, so I'm only here this long, and now I need to push. You know, I need to start pushing, and it just doesn't work that way. Never did, never will. So what do you do? Think. For and against. I wrote a poem about it once. To be a man, I think is what it's called, something like that. And I elaborate on thinking for and against everything, which is just self-awareness. So I would always reduce it to self-awareness is key, hoping that I could inspire thought. Apparently you can't be that vague. Not that I'm expecting like change so immediately and quickly. It's just, I hate itchy ears. You know, when the inside of your ear gets itchy, always wiggle it and apply a lot of pressure in and out and stuff. I am a firm believer that earwax is very healthy for you. Well, not too much, but just, you know, you need it for some reason. It's there to grease your eardrums. Never seen a study about dried out ear or drum heads, but I guess calfskin would equate to that. And you have to treat leather, so calfskins at the same time. Maybe that's why those little drum heads wore out. But then they become kind of hollow sounding. They're just crisp. What the fuck am I talking about? I'm gonna solve this. I get too much on my brain, you know? Sometimes you just can't help people. It's just this is, you gotta accept that. It's like going into war. Every time you go into war, somebody will get shot randomly, no matter how good they are. You just have to accept that and move on. Eventually, you can hope that one day somebody like you might not have to exist. And it's left to the people who have the functionality to try and produce results from perceptive shortcoming. So what do you do in that circumstance? You can't just simply let people in, because that's restricting. That's reducing our structure. We don't need more people in New York. We don't need more people in Kansas or Nebraska. Maybe more diversity in a few years, but that's simply because of bloodlines to prevent incest. And what that does to people. Not genetically. I'm not even talking about the diseases. I'm talking about the psychological issues of incest. They become like slaves to one another. Let's ignore fusion. Ignore fusion. Because that sounds like a beautiful little trump card, doesn't it? You can't accept that. You can just be like, oh, no, fusion. No. That is bad. You start relying on things like that, and you still set yourself up for a fundamental flaw like the mouse utopian. I always hated that social study, but because we're not mice, our thesis is knowledge, understanding, wisdom. It is the diversification. It is art. It is becoming a true individual, because we have a brain, and each brain can be different, and we hope anyway that we have infinite potential through that. And so we're not the mouse utopian society unless we fall victim to the paradox of democracy. What do you do? About 1,000 more lifetimes. I don't even think I could figure it out. Other than just what I came to recently is that since we are finite, we look for solutions that are sharp. We look for finite answers, though every time we calculate something, it is rounded. And that laid some sort of weird foundation into me that quite recently actually, I finally realized it. That sometimes you can't answer an unsolvable question with a solvable answer. That there are infinite answers that can still be answers, but are not direct. And that a number could run on, in theory, forever, and yet that is a solution to something. And the question that you have to ask has no solution. So we need to ask unsolvable questions and make those the answers in a way that makes any sense. I've been trying to elaborate on that. It's weird. It's a weird one. Just gonna end the video here.